In today's video, I'll be looking at the Nvidia Control Panel, in particular, negative load bias. So once we go into the Nvidia Control Panel, it's under Manage 3D Settings, and when you drag down this in Manage 3D Settings, it says Texture Filtering, Negative Load Bias. So you either have Allow, which is the better performing option, or you have the option to do Clamp. So I actually did this video previously, probably about it's already 4 months ago. I did a video on negative load bias, but I didn't read the description correctly in the Nvidia Control Panel. So if you use, so Allow is the option that gives you slightly more performance, and then Clamp is the one that gives you better picture quality at the expense of performance. But what I didn't read is that this clamp needs to be used in conjunction with anisotropic filtering. So if you put it on clamp, what you should do is either use anisotropic filtering in the Nvidia Control Panel or anisotropic filtering in game. So that's exactly what I tested today. And I used 3 different scenarios. But before I get to that, guys, please just, if you subscribe to my channel already, please just head over to my homepage and just make certain where it says subscribe, please just make certain that you have that little notification bell selected. It really will help me with the algorithm, so whenever I push out a new video, you will be notified. And then if you're not subscribed as of yet, if at the end of this video you find it helpful, please consider subscribing. But let's get to it. So Nvidia Control Panel, negative load bias. So I did 3 different tests. So Allow is the better performing one. So it's just my stock standard settings. And then my next test was with clamp on and the Nvidia Control Panel set to times 16. But then anisotropic filtering in game I switched off. And then for my last test, I had clamp on, Nvidia Control Panel, anisotropic filtering. I put it on app controlled. So I used the medium setting in this benchmark. But what I did is I pushed anisotropic filtering in game to times 16, but I switched it off in the Nvidia Control Panel. So guys, all my games are tested at medium settings, with the exception of Resident Evil 4 Remake. I just used the settings I used in game normally, which is a combination of medium, high, and low. And then everything else is at medium settings. My pool of games is a little bit smaller this time, and the reason I did that is because I wanted to benchmark games that gave me a clear option to either switch anisotropic filtering on or off. So I only have 6 games in my benchmark pool. So just to go through my results, when I have negative load bias on Allow, my stock standard settings, when I add up all the average FPSs over 6 games, my total FPS is 419 divided by 6. So my average FPS per game is 69.83. And then I did the same thing for the 1% lows. When I add up all the 1% lows over 6 games, my total 1% lows are 327 divided by 6 gives me 54.51% lows. Divide the 1% lows by the average FPS, and it gives me a stability of 78.05%. And that is when you use negative load bias on the default setting, which is Allow. So if you use Allow, what it's going to do, it's going to improve your image, or it's actually going to improve your performance slightly. Instead of having the best picture image, it's just going to automatically sharpen your image. But what you actually might find is that fast moving objects might look a little bit anti-aliased, so to speak. And when you put clamp on, it heightens the picture image, but you might actually find that you lose a little bit of FPS here and there. So for my next benchmark, I used the Nvidia negative load bias on clamp with the Nvidia Control Panel set to times 16 in anisotropic filtering, and then I switched the in-game anisotropic filtering off. And what you find is when you do this, you have to look very hard to see, but everything in the foreground of your game looks a little bit sharper. But the only game I could actually really notice a tangible difference where things looked a little bit better was Red Dead Redemption 2 and perhaps The Last of Us. But at that, you really have to look hard. Can't really see it straight off the bat. But guys, so what I did is I added up all the average FPSs over the 6 games. My total average FPS was 416 divided by 6. So my average FPS per game in this benchmark scenario was 69.33. So as you can see, not really a difference there. And then for the 1% lows, I added all the 1% lows up and it gave me an average 1% low over 6 games of 323 divided by 6, which is 53.83 average 1% lows for this benchmark situation. And then when I divide the 1% lows by the average FPS, it gives me a stability percentage of 77.64%. And then in my last benchmark scenario, I used negative LOD bias on clamp in the Nvidia Control Panel, and then the anisotropic filtering I put to app controlled in the Nvidia Control Panel. So then in game, what I do is I set anisotropic filtering to its maximum value. And yet again, add up all the average FPSs. Total FPS over 6 games is 418. Divided by 6 is 69.67. And then I add up all the 1% lows, and then it gives me over 6 games 323 1% lows. Divide the 1% lows by the average FPS, and it gives me a stability percentage of 77.26%. So guys, what you can see here is it doesn't really affect performance too much, but you are going to get a slight little bit better performance if you set negative LOD bias to allow in the Nvidia Control Panel. But in my in these benchmarks that I did notice that when you set negative LOD bias to clamp, you might find if your FPS is very high in game, you might find that everything looks a little bit better in the foreground, but the background stutters a little bit. It's not as fluid. So I suppose if you want my recommendation, unless you got high-end hardware, just use the default negative LOD bias set to allow. The game just looks a lot smoother. Anyways, that's me rectifying my old video. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button. If you have any questions, please hit me up in the comment section. And as always, if you enjoyed this video and you're not subscribed as of yet, now's the time to do so. It's people like you. Have a good Monday. Cheers.